I read something this morning. Who is equal toward the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who is renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. That's from the 14th chapter. And it just struck me that you have to become situated equally well in praise, blame, honor and dishonor, and treats alike both friend and enemy, and renounced all material activities. So I just wonder how clear we are. We're trying to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, and Krishna's saying that this is what's up ahead. That you become situated equally well in praise and blame, and that's not so easy to do. When we're getting praised, it's easier to try and think that you're being okay about it. But when you're being blamed, then you can see by how much you get upset when you're being blamed also shows how much you must have been attached to getting praised and getting the recognition, although you didn't realize it at the time. But then you get the other side of the coin. And it's not that that the blame has to necessarily be justifiable. It may be unfair. You may be dishonored. You may be blamed, and it may not even be your fault. And it's just the way the karma goes and the modes go, and you have to be able to just take it really calmly and balanced. So we read that, but then we're not really. We see that we're not really prepared to implement that when the situation arises,
Yeah, makes me think of Chitraketu Maharaj in the Bhagavatam when he gets cursed for just making a light joke to Shiva and Parvati, and he ends up, being cursed to die and become a demon in his next life, and he just takes it on the chin.
And Parvati realizes that because he's so calm, when he accepts and he doesn't blame her, then she realizes that she's made a mistake, And Lord Shiva says that too. He says, he was just joking, and you've overreacted. This is and he's taken it. He's not going to try and resist it or retaliate, thereby proving that she was wrong to do that.
Yeah, it's actually very powerful to the effect of taking some kind of dishonor on the chin and not arguing it, not defending your position, and just taking it. It seems to have it seems to always end up auspicious. Like, it seems to be the right way to deal with such a situation, because I guess ultimately in our karmic kind of destiny, we have done something wrong, and we do deserve whatever punishment it is. So the specific situation we're getting dishonored over is not necessarily the reason we're getting that reaction. So if you just take it on the chin, Chitraketu style, then you can be peaceful, and like you said, the other person might think, actually, maybe I shouldn't have, maybe that was a bit too heavy, or the punishment that
we're going through some difficulty now, and there's some legal thing that we're going to have to face, and it's unfair, and it's been fabricated, and we're trying to look at it philosophically as Krishna's arrangement. We're trying to see the sense in it all. But it just struck me this morning that the best strategy is to just remain calm and just accept whatever it is, and become equipoised. That's really the only solution. If you start climbing in and fighting, then you're reacting with all the dualities, and it'll be inauspicious in the long run,
And if you start defending yourself, it kind of makes you look a bit guilty somehow. Like that kind of, like when you see someone just like, oh no, it wasn't me, it was your fault. Da, 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 da. Like once you enter into that kind of melee, or whatever you want to call it, it implicates you in that kind of, I guess, animalistic way of dealing with things, isn't it? Eating, sleeping, mating, defending.
Yeah, and it's described, isn't it, that if you're caught in a web and you try to resist, then you become more entangled in the web. And then at the same time, I was reading a little while ago, Srila Prabhupada, in the battle against Mr. Nair, he didn't just have one group of sisters on it; he brought others in, and he left no stone unturned in how he would fight. And the devotees thought they'd lost the case; they'd signed something to say that they had to give up the land. And Prabhupada just kept pushing and fighting. I think the chapter's called "Chant Hare Krishna and Fight," but that's basically what they did, So so there's that aspect here as well. Is if you're in some difficulty and there is some blame and some dishonour, and it's actually going to affect the interests of the society, it's not just for yourself anymore. And then if you contact your spiritual master and he says fight and don't back down, and you're in the right, and if you do, this will look bad, because you could do like an out of court settlement, and that always implies that you're in the wrong, when you do that. So better to fight, even if it ends up costing more.
Yeah, I guess that's the distinction, isn't it? Is it if you're defending your own honor, then you should just take it on the chin. But if you're defending the Krishna consciousness movement,
every now and again you get like this. You're going along in your Krishna consciousness, and you get this really like strong wake up call, and you realize that, personally anyway, that you're not as Krishna conscious as you thought you were, and that your chanting is not very good at all, and your faith and your absorption isn't very good either, And at those times when you're faced with that, then you have to just remain calm and not react, and see that this is the modes of nature working now, and I have to remain equipoised. And whether you're being blamed and dishonored, or whether you're being praised. And there's a nice story actually in that book by Dhirashanta Maharaj that he did. It's called Reality and Illusion, I think. 64 stories. And one of them is the king gets given this little bit of advice, but he can only open the little amulet to see what the advice that's been written on it when he's in danger. So when he is in danger and his life is threatened, he pulls out the amulet and he looks and it says, all things will pass, and the danger passes, and then he comes back into his kingdom and he's being glorified, and he looks at the amulet again, all things will pass, and he realizes, okay, I'm being praised right now. A few moments ago I thought I was going to get killed. All these different things that are going on around me, they'll come and they'll go. I have to become self-situated,
It's like mantra sparshas to kontia, shitosnas.
Yeah,
Seasons.
without being disturbed. It's like we know we have to tolerate. And in one sense, we don't have any choice. We have to tolerate. What can you do? If it's raining, it's raining. But are you disturbed without being disturbed?
Yeah, that's a test as well for Sankirtan, isn't it? If it's raining on Sankirtan, how do you react to that?
Yeah, I remember Bhakta-rupa Prabhu, he said the grossest manifestation of the modes of nature is the weather. So he says, if you can't transcend the weather, then don't even bother trying to transcend the rest.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I remember I was in South Africa once and we were driving out to Sankirtan and it started raining. And the devotee did this massive U-turn and just started speeding back to the temple. I said, what's happening? He goes, we don't do Sankirtan in the rain. And they came back and one of them just jumped straight back into bed. He was so happy that it was raining,
Yeah, to be honest, I was speaking to Taraknath once when it was raining and he said, just go home. He said, was it better to lose the battle and win the war? Something like that. Sometimes it can be quite tough in the rain.
One time I was going around the houses selling paintings and I was in a posh part of London and I went round to Anna Ford. Anna Ford she got Woman of the Year award and she used to read out the news. She was on tomorrow as well. Very, very beautiful lady. I was attracted to her before I became a devotee. And she was in the house, and she walked out, and she says, "Okay, I'm going now." And the lady says, "Oh, I'll see you later, Anna." And then she turned to me and she goes, "Why don't you go and see if Anna wants some paintings?" I said, "Yeah, okay." As soon as I got out of the house, I just ran, and I told Jiv Jago later on, I didn't want to risk it because I found it very attractive. And he said, "Better to be a live chicken than a dead duck."
Mm.
So, yeah, it's better to lose the battle than win the war.
Mm.
Yeah, so the modes of nature are interacting, and if we can be aloof from the modes of nature rather than getting personally involved, allowing our false ego to get involved, then we can become equally situated in praise and in blame, honor and dishonor. And you may not know what that's going to look like until you're put into a situation where you are blamed and you are dishonored, and then that'll be the challenge. Are you going to give up your Krishna consciousness now and go away and use that as an excuse and stay miffed for the rest of your life? Or are you not going to react? You're going to stay focused on the process. I need to read, I need to chant, I need to follow the principles, I need to do devotional service. And all these other things may come and they may go. Sometimes I may be getting praised, and sometimes I may be getting blamed. But whatever it is, I'll still continue on with the process of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. Sometimes when you get that dishonor, especially when it seems like it's unjustified, it can feel a bit like getting punched in the face kind of thing. But I know, like, in school, if you got punched in the face and then you just carried on like nothing happened, then everyone would respect you. Like, oh, okay, that guy's, you know what I mean? Like, if you just run away, then so it's a bit of a crude one, but like, yeah, if you can just take that whack and just stay determined, it makes you more. It kind of levels you up, doesn't it? Like you become more.
There's so many considerations. That's why you need a spiritual master to guide you through, so that when these situations arise, we know what we should do and what we shouldn't do, And generally, if it's for our own personal interests, then we should avoid defending. That came up the other day actually in class, that there's 4 propensities, and eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And if we can give up defending, which is also fearing and defending are the same thing. If we can give that up and become fearless, then we won't have anything to defend anymore. There'll be no false ego to defend. Like Prahlad, Prahlad he just remained absorbed. So that's it's such a way ahead of us, that kind of level of Krishna consciousness. But at least we can take a step in that direction.
I heard, because we went to a false ego seminar when we were in Mayapur last year, and it was with Devaki Mataji, and she said that when there's something that's circulating in your mind again and again and again and again, oh my God, I can't believe they did this, I can't believe they did this, they did this, I can't believe they did this. She said that's a good indicator that your false ego is taking you for a ride. So it's like interesting, like if you catch yourself really meditating on, I can't believe I've been cheated in this circumstance, I can't believe it, they've cheated me, like you can really, the false ego likes to really like meditate in that way. So it's interesting, like to be able to check it,
Yeah. So we have Srila Prabhupada's books, but then we have so many devotees that have really understood the books. It's like even like I read this morning, when Hiranyakashipu was looking for Krishna hid himself inside the heart so that Hiranyakashipu couldn't find him. And then Prabhupada says, the word vivigna chetaha, very anxious, is significant. It is not that Lord Vishnu was afraid of Hiranyakashipu. Rather, because of compassion, Lord Vishnu was in anxiety about how to act for his welfare. So that's interesting that the real perspective for a devotee should be not concern for himself, but concern and anxiety over helping all the living entities that are involved with him, you know. But that's like,
that was from the 8th canto, what you just read?
Yeah.
Because I think I read the same thing and it stuck out to me.
Yeah.
It said that Lord Vishnu hid within the heart of Hiranyakashipu. Because I was reading with Bhakta Ben, one of the boys, and that struck, like, all of the people in the material world are looking for Krishna somewhere, but actually he's hidden within their heart, you know. And it's like we're always looking for that love, we're looking for that external validation, but actually he's hidden within the heart. So you have to go inwards. That seems like a big thing about spiritual life, is going inwards and trying to search for Krishna inside us. I don't know, it's interesting that I guess we're on the same part of the Bhagavatam as well. But
yeah, the 8th canto. Yeah, the initial reason I brought that up, I was just trying to remember why I brought that up, what it was related to. It was you could misunderstand that Vishnu was hiding from Hiranyakashipu.
Yeah,
but he had a different cause. But there was some point that was relevant to what we were saying before. And we were talking about praise and blame, honor, dishonor. That what struck me about that is that it's like Krishna's telling me, he's guiding me, you know. And then we have Srila Prabhupada's books, but then we have all these devotees. Oh yeah, that's the point I was going to make. Yeah, we have all these devotees that are helping us to get insight into the significance of why it's happening. So there's Srila Prabhupada giving us some insight. Now, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have had the insight to know that Lord Vishnu had hidden in the heart, not because he was afraid of Hiranyakashipu, because out of compassion, he wanted some time to work out how he was going to try and arrange for his ultimate deliverance and benefit, you know. Now, we wouldn't have known that. And then Srila Prabhupada, his comment on that may well be because of what a previous Acharya has said, you know. And then Srila Prabhupada may say something, and then we may hear one of his disciples make a comment on it, like this Mataji Devaki, and then she's helping us to see what this means, you know. And so as we go on, you can just imagine in a few hundred years how rich the resources will be there to access, to really, really understand how do we apply this Krishna consciousness, you know. Because when you listen to Srila Prabhupada talking to his disciples in the early days, they didn't even really know what questions they should be asking, because they were so new at Krishna consciousness themselves. They were just thinking, everything's okay now. I chant Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada's pure devotee. What's the problem, you know? And you don't know what the problems are for the first few years, you know? And then later on, if Srila Prabhupada had been sticking around for 50 years, you can just imagine all the kinds of questions and the more intricate it would get, you know, because they just had a very simple idea of what Krishna consciousness was, you know. But it turns out it's not quite that easy, not quite that simple.
Yeah.
A lot more to it, you know.
It's quite striking when you listen to a Prabhupada lecture, how he sticks on the basics, you know. Like I was thinking about this recently, like if you listen to his disciples' classes, they tend to be a lot more kind of esoteric, and they get into different details based on their realizations and experiences with Prabhupada's books. But his actual lectures, he's drilling home the basics constantly. Like you'll never hear him talk about too much of the esoteric stuff. So it's really, really interesting to see how. But then if you read his books, like just reading Chaitanya Charitamrita recently, it's just like the depth and like the multiple angles, each purport to purport, you're getting completely different angles, and it is like completely, like, what do you call it, like a symphony. It's unbelievable, like what Prabhupada offers in these purports, like the whole picture, and how many books there are, how many books he's made, and how many purports he's written. I mean, it's just making me appreciate it more and more, and you can keep reading, and it's really, I can't.
Gurmash has just been reading from Swamiji.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
They first started doing the dictaphone, and then this guy just walks in from out of the blue and sits down and transcribes everything, and then just goes again, you know. And and they were in anxiety because so much nectar was coming out of Srila Prabhupada's mouth, and it'd all been recorded, but it wasn't getting put down into the books and transcribed. So they were thinking, this is such a waste, And then suddenly, this whole arrangement was made, so that they could be transcribed. It's interesting that Srila Prabhupada could be so fluent. Normally if you're writing a book, you have to think about it, put it down, maybe change it like this, change it like that. But with Srila Prabhupada, it was just flowing out of him, constantly without any, just like Krishna was speaking through him, he's so pure and so connected that he was just like a mouthpiece. So when you're reading the books, if you're reading them and you think, this is actually Krishna, this is what Krishna is saying, through Srila Prabhupada. That's amazing,
Yeah, and it's that. So the second chapter, the first canto, and like that verse Shunvatam Svakata Krishna, like developing that urge to hear. When you try to read Prabhupada's books just to hear and just to relish it, just to enjoy it, you could feel how it's cleansing your mind, cleansing your conceptions. It's allowing you to deal with those duality situations in a much more sober, like dearer, clearer way. It's I think it seems to be vitally important to like associate with Prabhupada through them books, because like
absolutely,
you're not getting that perspective anywhere. It's completely out of this world. But it's about that having the right attitude as well. It's not just I'm trying to read the book. It's like you're trying to drink the book. Do you know what I mean?
Well, the book is a conversation you're having with Srila Prabhupada. So as you're reading, you start becoming aware that there's a certain message now that's appropriate for me to resonate with, and it just depends what's going on in your own life. That's why it struck me that we have to be equally situated well in praise and blame, because there's a lot of that going on right now, and honor and dishonor. And I've read that verse before, but then when you're going through it, then it has a lot more significance. So it's how to develop that sensitivity to be aware that this is Krishna now drawing my attention to this point, because he wants me to implement this attitude, this strategy, and therefore it's pinging in my mind, and then I'm realizing, okay, this I have to practice this. Krishna wants me to follow this. Doesn't just want me to read it and agree with it. He wants me to put this into practice, and I can't not put it into practice and say, oh well, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. I've got no excuse, Which is, I think, sometimes the reason why devotees stop reading, or they slack it. Quite a lot of devotees slack on reading Srila Prabhupada's books, is because it's easier sometimes to just bumble about in the dark than to have to know that this is how you should be behaving, which is what you're going to find when you read the books, and then you're going to have to apply that. So if you're a lazy person, or you're not so keen on fully implementing what's needed, then you would avoid that.
Yeah. That idea of looking for Krishna's voice through Prabhupada's purports is like, I feel like we should try to get into that mode of throughout the whole day, throughout, like on Sankirtan, like you can hear, what was that verse? Your mum pasati sarvatra, mum, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, and he's never lost to me.
No one's ever lost to me.
That living
it's
a life
interesting,
like
in case Bharati Maharaj first heard Srila Prabhupada speak, he'd been reading his books for a while, and he recognized that was the voice he'd been hearing when he was reading the books. So Prabhupada is so powerful that he comes through the written word, and it's a living thing. You're holding the book. That book is a conscious living entity, and the acharyas are speaking through to you.
And I think that's also true of his disciples' books. Like that, it's like Prabhupada speaking through them, through their voice. Like what you're saying about how, like in 100 years, there's going to be this much richer Krishna conscious kind of landscape. It's like that, like different teachers have different voices, and they give you a different flavor of the same truth. Like Satsvarup Maharaj's books, you can read them and they're really artistic and strange, but the message is piercing through, like loyalty to the parampara, and it's kind of exciting to think what Krishna consciousness is going to look like over the next 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 5,000 years.
Well, there's a good chance if we don't go back that we'll be part of that landscape. Plus the people that we've given books to just now, the landscape will become a lot more. There'll be a lot more people interested in embarking on the journey of Krishna consciousness, because we'll have saturated the preaching field with so many books, and they'll start to sprout in the next life. And yet, we're working out as we go along. How do we implement things? How do we, one of the major ones is, how do you stay in the movement? We're trying to work that one out. How do you remain connected with Krishna consciousness in some capacity throughout your entire life, and not just drop everything and turn your back, which is more than what half of them do, unfortunately. Or how do you factor that in? That's part of the course, that people will go so many years, fall away, come back, go a few more years, fall away, come back. That's also, some will do it like that. Others will just get serious and decide this is their last lifetime.
I think it's important to talk about that as well, isn't it? Because I guess when you're fresh in the Bhakti program or whatever, like, there's no conception that exists, that devotees leave. It's almost like, this is it, I found it, and this is going to be it for life. So to hear from a senior devotee like yourself that people, like the majority of devotees, will leave, or they'll weaken or they'll water it down, it keeps you a bit sober in your, okay, I need to be serious if I want to run the course. Because I personally, when I hear that, I think, I don't want to become one of those devotees that's kind of half a devotee. I want to be the real thing, real McCoy. So it's like,
and if devotees do fall and they slip away for a certain period of time, another part of our strength as a society will be that as we become more experienced as a society, then we'll learn that people don't disappear off the face of the earth when they bloop. They just go around the corner and beat themselves up for the rest of their life. And if you were to go around with some prasadam for them and put your arm around their shoulder and tell them, listen, you're a good devotee, just continue on, here's some service for you to do, then you would save them from having to come back in another lifetime. So I was really surprised when I joined. There was so many leaving the Bhakti program at Chaitanya College in the 80s. And I was wondering why we weren't trying to, because I thought, well, they're nice devotees. For some reason, it's got too much for them. They've gone away. Why aren't we concerned anymore? Why are we trying to find new ones? Surely the new ones will do just the same in a few years, whereas these ones have already been at it for a few years. Shouldn't we spend more time and energy on trying to bring them back around and show them that we care for them?
Yeah, what would you say is the biggest cause, or like a major cause for people deciding to distance themselves from Krishna consciousness?
What's interesting, Bhakta-rupa Prabhu said this once. He said the main reason people leave is because of what somebody said to them.
Honor and dishonor, like this theme that we're talking about a little bit.
Because you could be going along, you could be in Maya, and you could be going along and somebody just pulls you up and says you're in complete Maya, and then you realize you are, and then you just discontinue, So how careful we have to be with each other when we see that we're experiencing difficulty, how we speak to that devotee in such a way we don't discourage them,
I guess we have to learn to be more kind of gentle and sensitive to the people where they're actually at, instead of beating them over the head with some philosophy. Sometimes it's just
and that's there's not so. Prabhupada is saying, be humble, be tolerant, be kind, but how you would do that, how you'd go from where you are to being that. I think it's useful for devotees to look at nonviolent communication, look at books like Triggers by David Rico, look at some of the things Preethu's wife, can't remember her name right now, but she's got a lot of resource, a lot of information she's looked at about psychology and different things, and it's really, really helpful to implement that in relationships and Krishna consciousness,
Yeah, because it seems also it's as important as like outreach and Sankirtan and book distribution is that kind of in-reach element as well, like looking after who's here, because what's the point, like what you said, what's the point in just getting more and more and more people that are going to leave in 5 years,
And the outreach is going to be impressed if they see, that these guys really love each other, they really develop deep relationships, and I'm the first to put my hand up and admit that I'm very impersonal. I'm trying to get free from it. Prabhupada saying never shesha sunyavadi. The devotees wonder why he kept talking about impersonance all the time, Don't have to worry them, Prabhupada. We're all here, we're all devotees. And then they realized years later that he was talking about that. They were the never shesha sunyavadis. And we have to get free from that impersonal practice of Krishna consciousness, Because you can practice in Krishna consciousness, the most personal philosophy, impersonally.
Yeah.